Alright, so I was driving out to my brother's house in Lake Elsinore. You guys don't know, it's about 2 hours away. And I probably made the worst decision I probably could ever make. I forgot my auxiliary cord in my other car. So I was forced to listen to the radio the entire way back. I don't know if you guys are listening to the radio anytime soon. It's pretty much the same 10 songs looped all around. But it isn't like Miley Cyrus singing about wrecking ball. It's Jay-Z and Kanye West singing about how they're not going to mess with their effing clique. So today I'm going to talk about the decay of musical talent and respect in the industry today. Oh, compared to 50 years ago. To start off with, it is lacking the brilliance that we once had. For example, Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys revolutionized music by introducing the multi-track system. We're going up to 6 tracks for one song, for like different layers of like music. He invented the concept album, which that is having one theme throughout the entire CD or LP. That's the same thing. And best known for his CD Pet Sounds, released in 1966, which was by Rolling Stone. It is rated the #2 album of all time when described. It is a luxurious sound that conveys a heartbreaking wistfulness and deeply personal song. I'd like to see any artist nowadays come out with a concept album, unless the concept's like sex and drugs, and that's all concept album. All the pop music all together is a concept album in that case. And fun fact, #1 best album of all time according to Rolling Stone is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by the Beatles. Also a concept album. John Lennon and Paul McCartney were inspired by Brian Wilson, and they were forced to react, and they released their concept album, which is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. And Brian Wilson in the studio was known to be very, very excessive. He was a perfectionist and needed to get the job done, I guess. And here's an example.
If you came to those sessions, you would come to the conclusion that he's an orchestral producer. I mean, he would just cram more musicians in there. I don't know how he ever did it.
I need drums, percussion, 4 horns.
They would be sitting lined up back here.
Give me a trumpet, 2 tenors, and a bari.
And then they'd have the organ player over in here, you know, and then the piano in front of him.
2 guitars, one with a 12-string, one with a regular 6-string.
And then across from him, I mean, you saw the guitar players, you know.
Give me some violins and so forth. You get them all together, they all show up, we do the session.
But another growing trend inside the music industry, which is lacking brilliance, is self-respect. Define self-respect. Said nothing better than Mahatma Gandhi. They cannot take away your own self or our self-respect if we do not give it to them. For example, let's start off with, let's take it back to the 60s, the Beatles look. Perfected by their manager, Brian Epstein, they all had long, neat hair, always brushed, clean-shaven, tailored suits, overall respectable. He wanted to make sure, and in the book, Please Please Me by Gordon Thompson, Brian Epstein says how he wanted to make sure that the parents knew that their kids were listening to very respectable young men. Alright, so the Kanye West look. Sporting a leather skirt, chain-lined leather jacket, a weird goat t-shirt, and leather leggings that cannot be comfortable. The real talent he has is still being a multi-platinum artist while wearing all of that. So let's think back again. Beach Boys. Again, like the Beatles, they had a very clean look. And in their book, the Beach Boys book by Keith Batman, it said the all-American boys with a clean image. And Brian Wilson goes on to say that they stress the clean image and have clean sound, overall just being portrayed clean images. Alright, but another growing, very depressing trend is, oh never mind, actually I got one more. Take it back to VMAs 2013, pretty sure we all saw this. Robin Thicke, Miley Cyrus. Both dressed very outrageously. They knew a million people were gonna see this, and they still went out there and did this. That's pretty sad. She looked at Beetlejuice, and I don't know what she's doing. Another growing trend is ghostwriting, also known as disambiguation. There's the definition. For those that don't know what it is, today I'm going to be using it by people who don't write their own music and have other people write the music for them. Does anybody know who that is? I don't think so. Alright, this is Benny Blanco. He writes music for one of the most famous ghostwriters. He pretty much sells music to who you think are artists. He does music for Rihanna, Maroon 5, Kesha, Trey Songz, Katy Perry, Britney Spears, and Wiz Khalifa. So I know a famous song that he did, or I think right about now he has over 15 #1 tracks. He did moves like Jagger, he did like, I think Kesha's entire last CD. He produced Katy Perry's last CD, and he also wrote California Girls, so if you like that song. And he also did Wiz Khalifa's, if you like the song Work Hard, Play Hard, he did that entire song. So he produced and wrote that song, so Wiz Khalifa just showed up to the studio, did his thing, I guess. Yes, also making millions, but nobody knows who he is, so. Alright, let's take it back. Beach Boys, like I said before, Brian Wilson composed, produced, and wrote all the music for the group, with a couple help of Mike Love for the lyrics. Besides that, where he was in the Beach Boys as well, so wouldn't count. Take back to the Beatles. They did not, or John Lennon, George Harrison, Paul McCartney wrote most of their songs, but again, some of their songs like Long Tall Sally, I don't know, some of the earlier songs were covers, so they didn't technically write it all. Like Long Tall Sally was originally by Little Richard. But yes, again, most of the songs they did themselves in the studio, getting paid someone to do it. So with all this being said, it's very sad what our music has gone to. It's not the same. I don't know how we went from something so great, like these guys and the Beach Boys and Elvis Presley, to now what we have now, I guess. I don't know what to really call it. It's pretty sad. Yes.
Don't drink and drive. Right now.
My turn to write. Yeah, we
got to say
All right, so John's going to step in here. Tell us what you thought, John.
His attention device was actually really good, except for the auxiliary cable. I'm sorry, dude, I don't know that. It's just USB cable for me. No, but it was actually pretty good. It was pretty funny all throughout the whole entire presentation. The video, however, I kind of didn't like, sorry. But it felt a little bit too long, and I would have preferred him like talking throughout the video, like saying, hey, this is how music is from back then to now, kind of thing. I also did like how he compared like how music was produced and written and thought out back in the last 50 years compared to now. It's pretty good. Conclusion was pretty good. He ended it pretty smoothly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I like the attention device. I thought the story is really effective at getting us started, and I knew what you meant by your auxiliary cord. So that wasn't the problem for me. Geez, my goodness, actually having to listen to the radio, how horrifying. Talk about the change in the world, because that's completely different also. Maybe the difference is in fact the radio. Maybe that's what's the source of some of these problems, and that might have been an interesting way to go. I know that you've got a general theme here, but it feels so general that even though the things that you pick to talk about fit under that theme, it still feels a little bit disconnected. I did like some of the comparisons that you did. I thought you did those pretty effectively. If I was going back over this right now, looking at what you had, I would say you could cut out the stuff about the looks of the bands or their self-respect issues, those kinds of things. Let's just talk about the way the music is produced and focus on that and what's different. In the studios back in the 50s and 60s, they had to play in studio. They had to have the actual musicians there. They were part of the creative process, and now things are different. And why are they different? Sometimes it's because the producers have taken over and they control everything. And then you mentioned the one guy, the ghostwriter, and he's a producer on a lot of those albums too. And what does the producer have control over? It's not the band anymore. Bands don't produce their own albums. They turn themselves over to somebody who is a studio whiz or some technical kind of person, and so there's a change in the way they record the music, what music gets decided on, what they emphasize, and the producers are all in control of that. I'm not sure that that's all completely different, because there were plenty of groups in the 60s that had producers that were, Phil Spector is, the start of that whole kind of idea that did those same kinds of things. But you could see that there's a lot more involvement with the bands, for instance, maybe back then. So I think that might have been a way to focus your argument a little bit. Although I did like the Kanye West and comparisons to the other guys in the pictures that you're showing. I thought that you integrated the slides into the presentation pretty effectively. The video clip, I thought it was fine. Maybe a little long, but it did illustrate the point. That look, when Brian Wilson and the Beach Boys were recording, we had like a whole orchestra in here, and they're talking about how many baritone saxophones you had, and we had the organ over here, and we had some violins down here, and it's like if you were in the orchestra describing where everything was in a studio, that's a lot different, and that's when I think we could need that comparison. So what is it like in a studio now? The singing artist comes into the studio, and there's nobody else there except the producer, and they sing on a track, and then the producer mixes all these other tracks that they've recorded at some other time, or pre-recorded, or borrowed, or created in a computer, and then they mix those things together, and that's what is different, about those kinds of things. I think that might have been a way to kind of, like I said, focus it a little bit more. I think that it ended up being a little bit more focused than I was worried it was going to be. So you did a pretty good job on that, and I thought that the slides helped kind of remind us what the point was that you were trying to make throughout the presentation. All right, thank you.
Why did that do that? What did it do? Stop. In the name of love.